Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are starting F.E.A.R, which stands for, I believe, First Encounter Assault Recon, or something along that line. Uh, this is a originally released 2005 game that, because of that factor, is now over 14 years old. It is made by, originally, at least the first game, is made by Monolith, which is the company that went on to make the Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor series. And this is somewhat published, I suppose, by WB Games, which might explain in a lot of ways why there isn't a ton of new F.E.A.R games coming out these days. In fact, it's been, I believe, at least 5 years since F.E.A.R 3, the last game in the series, came out, and so there is a very good reason to argue that a remake of the series should happen. Now, I'm covering this now because, quite literally, there are so many horror games that come out that if I were to just try and cover them all, it would never possibly work if I was trying to cover them all in my usual time slots of October. So I've been threatening to do a second Halloween around the beginning of the year, first quarter of a year, and this is my first attempt at that. Now, for this game, we have a game resolution here that is not optimized for it at 1080p. I have VSync off. I have the HUD text scaling at large. So it will work, but maybe these pixels are being stretched out a little bit. You could probably guess that because this probably was a complete circle here in each of the periods, and they are just stretching. You might be better off turning your display from 1080p to something that is a 4:3 ratio. What's weird, I would say, about this main menu is that it really does not tease the Grudge / The Ring spooky girl that plays a main role in the game, even though the cover of the game totally teases that, so it's not like it's a surprise. This is a first-person shooter, but there is some weirdness to it. We can see some of this audio effects, for instance, I can't even turn on. Creative EAX Advanced HD, just not in my onboard sound card, and I imagine not really in any modern onboard sound card. But on top of that, we have performance settings where I have it set to maximum, and we can see the multiplayer no longer works in this game. So if you were to buy this, you will also on Steam get the 2 bits of DLC. I know I'm jumping all around here, but yeah, there's really no reason for a 15-year-old game that everything wouldn't just work. Everything set even to the maximum should work perfectly fine. Although I did run this sample test a couple times, and it isn't like it's approaching 120 frames per second on average. No, it's still really only getting at maximum settings 70, 80, maybe 90 on average. It's not going below 60, although in fairness, a lot of games can't even make a consistent 60. And then the controls are probably the weirdest one, because this doesn't have a setup where you look left and right at all. So it's built almost for mouse and keyboard setup, although I'm fairly certain this was an Xbox One, the original Xbox, not an Xbox One game. or maybe an Xbox 360 game. But there's no option here as we cycle through this to look left and right. There's look up and down. You could strafe left and right. Maybe that's what you would work with. Moving ahead and back. These options are pretty crazy. Throwing a grenade would be crazy for the X-axis on the right stick also. I guess we'll leave it on strafe left and right and see how that works. But right now my controller is not working at all in the menu, so I'm a little concerned about that. Let me just unplug my controller and plug it back in. Boy, that plug is tight. I'm using an Xbox One controller, and yeah, maybe it's one of these games where you have to hit A to get it to work. Nope, it is totally not working in the menu, so I can only hope that it will work in the regular game. I don't think we have. Let's see, we can just go ahead and delete this, and we'll just start from the beginning, and let's jump into the game. I think that's more than enough banter. Let's see. So, difficulty decision time. Do I want to play on moderate difficulty, which would be probably the true point where I would be challenged. I'm not going to be crazy and do high difficulty or extreme difficulty. There's almost certainly no Steam achievements built into this game since it's so old, and even if there was, it's not worth beating the game on extreme difficulty. Although I did have friends, people tried to encourage me to play this series when F.E.A.R 3 was out at the very least, and I just never got around to it. So this really is one of the games that were a gap. It was a weird time, certainly, where more and more of the Halo fans who had never played games before started becoming the majority of gamers, and a lot more first-person shooters were coming out. I kind of want just casual players, particularly for an older game, because if they're saying this is for casual players, it probably means the game very likely is more difficult than it would matter. Let's see. Situation: high level alert has been issued. F.E.A.R team is to report for emergency briefing on situation. You have been transferred to the unit as a point man. This will be your first assignment with F.E.A.R. Press any key to continue. Alright. And yeah, I think maybe no, that's plugged in. Well, interesting. So this is interval 01 inception. If my controller was going to work, it would work. Yeah, like, by all means, it should work. That text is incredibly small at 1080p. I cannot read any of that. I am playing this game on a monitor from across the room, 10 feet away. First, Encounter Assault Recon. This is a initialism. They thought of the initials first and then squeezed in a reason. A lot of people worked on different parts of the F.E.A.R series, but most of those companies are still around, so a remake wouldn't seem like it would be incredibly hard. This graphics look amazingly good for 14, 15 years ago. The idea of taking a standard military shooter and adding a supernatural element to it is an idea that got pushed and done in many different ways over and over again. And because of that, we got a lot of good games like BioShock, for instance, and plenty of other ones that I wouldn't want to sit here and just try and name every single supernatural first-person shooter game, but the idea of taking first-person shooting and adding to it inabilities to adjust for some of the other factors that you wouldn't have. Halo did it with a sci-fi by giving you shields and regenerative health, but increased mobility and increased health regen, and just being able to do something unique to make your game stand out from a crowd, which was it very, very quickly became a crowded field of first-person shooters, and it's still a very crowded field of first-person shooters and games. So my guess here is, I believe the creepy girl that looks like the girl from The Ring is, I think her name is Alma, and she has like this telekinetic ability to drive people crazy.
Sorry to wake you, Senator. It's about Origin.
What happened?
There was an uprising. F.E.A.R has taken command of the prototypes.
My God.
We can still resolve this discreetly, but we have to move fast.
Oh, all right. Let me make a few calls.
This might actually be the Project Origin DLC
This wacko's
first.
name is Paxton Fettel. He's the key. If we contain him, we contain the situation.
Fucker's got an appetite.
I think he has an agenda. It's not just recreational. He's getting something out of it.
Essential vitamins and nutrients?
What's his story?
Property of Armacam Technology Corporation. They're working on a military contract to develop an army of clones that respond to a psychic commander. Top secret, of course. Fettel is one of the commanders.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. This is why nobody takes us seriously. Military clones?
A full battalion of them. Highly trained and heavily armed.
A battalion? What are we supposed to do against 1,000 super soldiers?
Like I said, we put Fettel down and it's over. Fortunately, the whole point of the program is to give commanders first-hand knowledge of the battlefield without putting them in danger. That means we should be able to corner the bastard without having to wade through all those soldiers.
How do we find him?
Armacam implanted a transmitter in his head. Should lead us right to him.
That's awfully convenient.
Assuming it does what it's supposed to. What about you, buddy? Ready to go to work?
Putting him in the field? Are you crazy?
Can I control the
He
camera
just
right
transferred
now?
in a week ago.
You've seen his training results.
Yes,
His
I
reflexes
can.
are totally off the charts.
I can with the
I think he
mouse,
can
at
handle
least.
himself.
Whatever, man. It's your call.
Goddamn right it is.
Don't worry. You'll be fine.
So these graphics look really good, knowing that this is a 14-year-old game. But compared to a modern landfall of games released on Steam, this actually just looks kind of like a first-person shooter asset flip game, because now a first-person shooter asset flip can just
No sign of enemy activity on the satellite,
buy
but don't
these
take
kinds
any
of
chances.
visuals
Jankowski, you in position?
and reuse them
All right, move it out.
and license them, assuming somebody doesn't just steal the artwork. So, situation: F.E.A.R mission coordinator Rowdy Betters has tracked down an enemy commander, Paxton Fettel, to abandon the building in the Auburn district. Hannibal 3 spy satellite is in geosynchronous orbit, shows no signs of replica soldiers in the vicinity. A spy satellite really would not be able to scan consistently, but let's just assume they have different orbit technology. Field combat operators will infiltrate the target site from 2 separate entry points and attempt to neutralize Fettel. According to the Armacam technical advisor, once Fettel is contained, replica soldiers will become inactive and can be rounded up without incident. Investigate areas for signs of Paxton Fettel. And yeah, this still does not feel like it has any kind of control or support. Like, it's all mouse and keyboard. So let me hit this. Let me come over here, configure this, and this is all missing. So did we accidentally turn off all of this settings, or do you just have to set it up in each one? Let's see. Turn left and right should be look up and down. This should be turn left and right. This should be move forward or back. And back and back. Alright, so now the controller is working. So it's weird, to say the least, because you don't really have an up and down shooting at all. Well, you don't have a turn left and right shooting. So it might be better to not have this. Let's see. This moves forward and back. This turns left and right. But it doesn't actually move you. So I think I have those backwards. Pause button doesn't do anything. Back button doesn't do anything, of course, because those buttons would not be right. So, I guess this should be strafe left and right, and this should be move left and right. And let's see how that works. And I'm assuming everything here, like everything disappeared. So like half the settings and everything disappeared. I don't know if that's because I deleted the profile, which would be crazy, but whatever. Alright, so left, right, up, down, left, right, forward, back. Alright, that feels right. And the Z trigger to shoot would be the left trigger. I don't think that's going to work. Can we even adjust that? Because you want to shoot to be the right trigger. And there's a lot of setup here. Z axis fire. Is there a fire inverted? No. So. Well, that's gonna be weird, certainly. So to shoot, none of the face buttons seem like they're going to do anything. Left and right bump don't seem like they're gonna do anything. Boy, is this old. Like, the idea that a game like this wouldn't even begin to understand what a modern interface would be, to the point where you're pulling the left trigger to fire, none of the face buttons do anything. You have to manually program everything into this. Break or shoot the loose boards to clear a route. How do I break? Let's see. There must be some other buttons. There must be. Otherwise, your control support here is only supplemental. Let's see. Configure controls. So, interaction. Fire. Melee. Let's see. If I want a melee, let's just hit A. Okay. So you really have to go in here and set it all up that way. Button 5, I guess right bump to fire. Is that any better? Throw grenade up on the hat switch. Or let's go ahead and reload with the B button. Nope, that was the B button. Yes. And then use is the X button. And then aim or zoom with the left stick clicking in. Flashlight, we can make the Y button. Slow motion. Let's see, X. No. Let's see. Slow motion with the Z trigger. Left bump, I guess. Slow-mo. That's something, I suppose. Using the bumps makes it feel more like a PlayStation game. Movement. Let's see. But then we want jump to probably be A. And then crouch to probably be that. Let's see. Toggle markers with the gamepad button 6. Mission status with the start button. Sure. Alright, now what are we missing? Then the melee. X for melee. And then there's kind of not enough buttons on. Let's see. So we have a hat switch, different uses. Yeah, there's a lot missing here. The fact that none of this would be built in is crazy. And then, like, ideally, you would want your weapon slot used on the D-pad. Wow. So next weapon, I'm gonna go here and here. And it doesn't seem like it works. It's not getting the... It seems like it's any button on the gamepad hat switch seems to only work that way. No. There's not enough buttons here. There really isn't. There's so many things. Otherwise, I'm gonna just set that as throwing grenades. Set the back button as throwing a grenade, and I'm just hoping like any of this will make any sense. Like we're nowhere here, and it's been 30 minutes just to try and figure out the right buttons. So let's see. This is melee, this is jump, this is reload, this turns on the flashlight. That makes sense. That shoots. Let's miss completely. That seems to work seems like we've got a limited amount. Let's see, we don't have a back button. This brings up a pretty good menu, but then there's nothing on the controller that undoes that, so I'd have to click the mouse, but fair enough. This crouches. This zooms. This is slow time. Why we can slow down time, I don't know. This is fire. But wasn't there another? Yeah, so I could change the fire to throw a grenade, I guess. Let's come back to that. Options here. Controls. This. Throw a grenade. Alright. So, I don't have any grenades right now to throw, but then that leaves us with just then having to hit the right bump to throw a grenade. Which probably is our best bet as a setup. Wow. That's a lot of controls you have to do. A lot of manipulation. Alright, so we've got our standard red barrels that don't seem like they explode. This should explode, but doesn't. And when you're zoomed in, you can still walk around. Alright, good to know. This little smiley face. It's definitely not easy to try and play an old game like this when you have like no nostalgia. You can see the physics on this is probably not great either. You have a can that's bouncing around all over the place. That's not terrible. But yeah, without the nostalgia, I don't know why you want to play this. I've often felt that Half-Life is going to be in the same scenario for me. While Half-Life is undeniably a groundbreaking game, is it really that groundbreaking that somebody who has never played it really would want to play it? This is also moving particularly fast. We're running into a scenario where the games are running too well. A lot of boarded up windows here. Probably to hide the fact that they can't show reflections. Alright. To use an open doors, press to use the open door, which I put that on the D-pad up. So, I missed a rat. Now, the thing here, I think you take from this, and we haven't revealed that yet. That rat just exploded. And this is an oddly small area. All of a sudden I feel shorter than I was. I mean, look at my shadow here. This is probably groundbreaking shadow technology, but I'm hunched over, and yet I get in this room, and even hunched over, it feels like if I was standing up I would hit my head. And then it seems like you stand on the garbage pretty easily, and then all of a sudden you're floating in the air. You're not really standing on the garbage, you're just kind of floating above it. Which that probably shouldn't be the way that works. But you're actually bumping into these things. Storyline, I think the creepy girl is psychically controlling. Please help us keep this room clean. There's no way to pick up objects like Half-Life in this. So yeah, I think the creepy girl is controlling the psychic commander, and the flashlight then ran out of energy, and so if we defeat the psychic commander, we probably won't have to do anything.
Hey bro, what took you so long? Try to find a way around.
You know what I want to do is, again, no achievements, so no real reason to shoot rats. I want to come back here and see what the key was. And I'm not going to map it to anything, but I'm just going to see what the key was to toggle walk. Alright, I'm going to assign it to, let's just say numpad. Nah, let's go H. No, that won't work. V? No. Like every button is connected to something. Comma. There we go. We'll put it on comma. Comma. So now, when I'm walking, it seems kind of slower, and I feel like that's probably what you would want in this experience compared to just this fast run. I think that's probably 50%. I have a majorly upgraded PC compared to what they were expecting this game to be run on, and 50% of them just not really playing this and polishing this enough to it. Most horror-based first-person shooter games not in the business of really allowing you to run as far and wide and as fast as you can. Here's some boards that can't be broken. Yeah, even the toggle walk though still feels like you're pretty helpful. Alright. Health permanently increased. And let's see. That hammer. Sure seemed like that was something of importance. But it doesn't seem like there's anything you can do with it. Maybe it was just there as an indicator. Our health is at 105, so this is almost a Doom-like, yeah, it's a Doom Wolfenstein-like game where you're starting with a certain health and then it's just going to get higher and higher, and you'll probably get some buffs. Here we have what was probably an average animation. Man, there's a lot of janky stuff you're just crashing into. We're getting creepy sound effects. There's probably an average bathroom there. No reflections. There's no ray tracing or anything like that are going to be in a game like this. Of course, if they were to remake this game, which they probably should, they have, I think, at least 5 games here that they could merge together, make a remake, and just reboot the whole series. Let's see. So there's like a bookcase or something. You can't pull the door towards you, so it's barricaded. And the doors works independent of each other, which is slightly interesting. Of course, if something decides to start attacking me, that all the prompts here do seem to... We've got a creepy female crying sound. And it looks like there might have been some visual glitches happening over here. So they're probably going to get our first jump scare. Yep. Here we see a jump scare. Now, horror games never scare me. This almost certainly would be a game that if it was modern and remade, and I don't think you can just like remaster this. I think what you would want to do. I wish there were subtitles, actually. Come to think of it, that would be. Let's see if we can turn on subtitles anywhere. Like, we've had to spend an entire 30-minute episode. Their game subtitles. I turned those on. I totally did that. Toggle crouch. HUD fade speed. Yeah. Here's a good comparison if you were going to play this with mouse and keyboard. Like, just a standard Logitech mouse here moves so fast that you would get motion sickness probably pretty quickly. But there really needs to be a sensitivity issue adjustment here, because even the controller is pretty super sensitive, and they're really just running the full gambit. Like, how are you going to storyline wise explain creepy guy, creepy zombie guy, screaming of a girl and a baby, and jump scares? Yeah, there really has only been one game that has ever really scared me that I've played, and that was Condemned Criminal Origins, and it did it by setting a lot of atmosphere probably before it even did the first scary thing. Just jumping into the atmosphere, into the scary things, is a little too quick, a little too cliche. I've seen some movies take a good 30-40 minutes of a 2-hour movie to determine there's kind of a lack of smoothness when you just slightly move up with the left stick. That might be because it's we're at such a high resolution. So this game might run just better in general at its default resolution. More and more I'm starting to question if it's a smart move to try and raise the resolution on old games. I suppose it would be game over at this point if you were totally out of bullets. Because, well, I guess you could do that. That works too. The thing, though, is all of this happening isn't building to a single character. At least it doesn't seem like it is to be afraid of. So you don't have a big bad guy. It would be a lot nicer if Fintel was teasing us.
Hold on a sec.
And so we've hit a checkpoint. And it's saved.
You ready?
That's putting the saving checkpoint. So we're slow motion. And he just... That guy just disappeared. Completely. And we're like in this permanent slow time. So let's just pick a direction and go. Seems like you had 2 paths to take, and you could have taken either one. And that glass just breaks into squares. Like, talk about really old technology. As far as what this obviously would have had to been programmed on. So there's something creepy about me too. So I was saying this was like the zombie guy.
On my way.
Looks like we're too late, boss. Just leftovers.
The transmitter signal's coming from nearby. It's gotta be around there somewhere.
I'll wait here for Jin. You take a look around.
So it's kind of weird that you have a co-op character in a horror game. And so he just like disappeared while you were hallucinating and then appears back, which would have been really just a system. I imagine we saw a creepy guy walk by. It's probably a system just to not have to program the characters walking around things and programming pathfinding. But it's odd that it even exists at all. And if you are going to set an environment, it probably needs to get dark or somewhat overcast pretty quickly. I mean, it is overcast right now, but still feels like it's a little bright for a horror game. On the other hand, there's thousands upon thousands of Steam games that claim to be horror games and really are nothing but 90% darkness, where even in the screenshots before you'd even think about buying them, you've realized there would be no way you could see anything that's going on. And it is a high challenge and a high accomplishment if you can make a horror game work in more brightly lit areas. At the very least, you should try to have some areas brighter than others and not have the entirety of your game set in darkness. So here's a question. Does seem like I shot the car there, but there's really not enough bullets for me to goof around. And what if my bullets didn't refill between levels? I would be doomed. But I assume, let's face it, there's not a lot going on in this first level. This is just a tutorial level. The main thing we've had to do is just adjust controls, which you still would have had to learn those if you were playing mouse and keyboard. Mouse and keyboard was... Here you have a little bit of... What is that called? Lens flare? Yeah. Solar flares, God rays. They used to love to put these in games until they became so cliche people kept calling them out on how overused they were. By the way, one of the Japanese horror movie stories, like that had a creepy girl like The Grudge, had a girl who climbed into the top of a water tower of a building and drowned. So that there was quite a few of those movies that came out somewhat close to each other, and then eventually a couple of them got remade with Western actors. There's nothing special here. No collectibles, nothing sneaky or extra to find in this level. It seems like this is a very basic game by modern standards. And it took a really long time for him to swing there.
The dead man's name was Charles Haberger. I remember him. But are the memories mine or hers? It makes no difference. deserve to die. They all deserve to die.
In a weird way, I think the story reveals that the creepy grudge girl actually is the victim, and she's just enacting vengeance, which vengeance isn't justice, but it's understandable. It's a human emotion. So you just got hit with a board, and you can't just jump over the ledge and die. So, very small area, no collectibles. It's going to be hard to justify playing this game. Good thing we're playing on easy. We're going to probably just have to mad rush to see the story. I don't know if this is the prequel that we're doing right now, or if this is the first level of F.E.A.R 1. I know that those levels are somehow integrated into the game, or at least they claim to be on Steam, but we weren't given any option to play the DLC. So
Hey, back already?
Oops.
See anything?
You guys about done up there?
I guess if I waited.
You boys run along. I'll be busy here for a while.
Those subtitles are incredibly small, so that they might as well not be on.
Come on, make her push. I've tried to forget. I've tried so hard to forget.
These men are from F.E.A.R. They're special attachments to our unit for the duration of this op. They will be on point. Their mission is to assess the nature of the threat. Our job is to keep them alive.
We can in-game cutscenes when we probably would have done better with just cinematic cutscenes.
Once our recon is complete, we'll rendezvous and wait for further orders. Okay, let's saddle up.
So, interval 02, infiltration, first encounter. Okay. So, this is the point I think we need to end this recording here. But I may hit the button and I may hit the shortcut key to end the recording, and it may actually jump into the level, so we'll see what happens there. So the next level will Paxton Fintel has managed to elude F.E.A.R, blah blah blah, blah 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 blah. Mission: combat operatives were attached to the responding special forces detachment Delta troops to reconnoiter. Reconnoiter? I don't even... To recon, I guess, is what that's supposed to be, the area for the purposes of recommending military response. Team should not engage with enemies unless fired upon. Alright, so we have another level here, and it does say interval 02 first encounter. So it does feel like we probably are playing the first encounter DLC first, which was a prelude, so that makes sense. It does also, though, kind of make it feel like we might run into another tutorial mission when we get into the actual main game. So far so good, but when you're talking a 14-year-old game, it's hard to really see if there's any relevance here. In a weird way, this game series must have done something for Monolith that they were eventually able to make the Shadow of Mordor game series, and I assume they're working hard on making a third game in that series, and then they probably should announce that they're also working on a new F.E.A.R. remaster. I think the story here still would work. A creepy Japanese girl from like The Ring is something that's culturally recognized nowadays, so that would work as a game. Just, you know, create better levels, bigger levels, maybe get rid of any other characters being in the game, because that's not going to help for anything. This doesn't need to be a multiplayer team-based game. It doesn't need to have microtransactions. It doesn't need to have loot per se. It would probably be nice if there were some collectibles, something that would give you bits of backstory or things that you could read so that people could really sink their teeth into the backstory. But it doesn't really have to be anything crazy. You really probably don't even have to think of too many new effects. You could probably just take whatever the crazy psychic effects that we see now and tweak them a little bit for a remake. And in a lot of ways, there's so many other horror games that you won't ever get remakes of. Like, let's be honest, we're never going to get Silent Hill remakes. So you could steal some of those ideas and try to be the supplemental style of release to this. On the other hand, you might not even need to use the F.E.A.R. name, because the F.E.A.R. name doesn't really resonate. You might just take this entire concept and make a new series and call it the spiritual successor to the F.E.A.R. series from the creators of the F.E.A.R. series, which it seems like everybody, Monolith worked on F.E.A.R. 1 and 2, and then a company that I think is now bankrupt, I think it was called One Up Studios is what I saw, made F.E.A.R. 3. Of course, all the employees that work at Monolith now may not be the same employees that made F.E.A.R., so that could be an issue. Let's see. Well, I don't think there's anything else more to say. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.